in existence. So it is not about the laws, it is about people swinging into action and stop blaming each one or one another on the same. And more importantly, on the presidential decree, I think the presidency has really changed. You know, a while ago when the president said something, someone was taking notes and swung into action to actually ensure it is done. But I think that no longer happens. And if you look at what the president said, he really must be embarrassed to actually repeat the same thing again.
We are playing that clip so that he remembers, and he can then ask, because, I said this, why did no one follow it out?
It really would feel really embarrassing, even to me as a person. If you said this, the last fire, and you say it again, and still no report has been provided, no report has been given to show what exactly happened. And that time, the fires we have dealt with before, and the last one especially, the one he was commenting about in Meru, was really about businesses. It's okay, businesses were lost, we agree, livelihoods were destroyed, but this time, Wahiga, this fire has actually gone to a residential area. It has lives lost, lives maimed. There are people there who will never be the same again, even if they have survived. The 70 who are injured, their lives totally changes. And out of these 15, I think 9 are children. You know, innocent lives. So I think this time around, it cannot really even be compared to the last time, because it really touches on lives. And I hope that this presidential decree and the people who are responsible can be able, and it doesn't matter right now, who is it, county or is it national. And Nairobi is special again, and we said it before. Article 187 to 189 of the Constitution that talks to cooperation between the two governments must really come into play right now. We have seen it happen during the roads reconstruction and infrastructure, where the president says, we don't care, you Sonko sit with the CS Macharia and come up with a plan to rehabilitate infrastructure. On this one, it really must not matter. The national government, through its own agencies, and the county government must really work together and cooperate to ensure that we see results, and at the end of it, we can be able to have a way forward.
Before you come in, Honorable Buyu, in a Gazette Notice Supplement 24 issued on the 16th of March 2018, the Senate published the Disaster Risk Management Bill that seeks to provide the much-needed legal framework in the management of disaster response activities in the country. The bill was ready for tabling to the Senate for discussion anytime after the expiry of 14 days after its publication. So that's around about March of this year or so. What has happened after that? You know, we don't have quite information on that, but it seems something has been happening this year on that matter coming.
You know, I was just listening to Honorable Wangari talk, and I'm sure these sentiments that she's expressing were the exact sentiments after Huruma, okay? And Huruma was pretty bad at that time because it was also residential. What I want to say is not as a result of handshake. Honorable Kirwa, take that. No, what I'm about to say is not as a result of what I'm about to say. You don't know what I'm about to say.
No,
but I want to say this.
But don't confuse the situation.
No, I was
saying he has had a lot of issues.
No, I'm not talking about what you said. I'm saying what I'm about to say is coming from my heart, and it's not as a result of the handshake. Because I'm about to...
But why Kirwa? Why Kirwa?
Okay, let her finish, then you respond.
Why is it talking too fast?
No, but you see...
I'm about to...
You mentioned
I'm not the architect of handshake.
With no motion.
I'm about to exonerate President Uhuru Kenyatta. Because as a president, when that situation occurs, obviously he's sympathetic to the situation.
Oh yes.
Very sympathetic to the situation. And he makes declarations at that particular time. But he's the president of the country. And like Honorable Kirwa says, there are officers who are mandated to take action or to effect the policies within their dockets. If they do not take those the appropriate actions, they stand to blame. And the only thing that we would ask the president to do, the only thing that's still in his mandate to do, is that these people have no business still sitting on their jobs. They have no business sitting on the jobs. They just have to be removed, because each time we see the same faces coming up to say the same things without having acted at all. So the president, in his powers, he has those powers through whatever means. Like she says, there are many times that he's come up to say things and people have swung into action. So he, as the president of the country, can still do that, so that we don't see these same faces sitting on their jobs and coming back to tell us, sometimes you want to hit your screen because you want to hit their faces actually. They still come back with the same story, and then life goes back to normal. So he cannot be the one going down to do all that. And he cannot stop to feel sympathetic, because the last time he was sympathetic You know, you can't tell me that he was sympathetic in the Huruma or whatever, so now he can't be sympathetic again. He feels it, and probably he feels even stronger. But the officers who are not taking action should be dealt with, and he is the one who can deal with them. They don't need to sit on those jobs for us to keep on waiting for disasters and them giving us the same reaction.
Okay.
And we are hoping that he's become the new him. We are hoping that this can happen.
That we'll see this also when
we
it
have
comes to
seen
disaster
his face
management.
on the fight on corruption. We hope that even because this is a form of corruption that takes lives.
Yes.
And really we hope that it can happen like Honorable Buyu says.
Honorable Kirwa, do you still feel like you need a right of reply?
No. I realize
It's not as bad
I was on your side.
it was not as bad as I feared.
She made it look like
Waiga, I support the handshake for two reasons. We just need to be together as Kenyans.
Does your party support the handshake?
Yeah, we do. We do.
Okay.
Possibly they may be the style, but in terms of national cohesion, I don't think I can contradict anybody in my party if I say we support national cohesion. And what the president did and former prime minister is something that every Kenyan must support without conditions.
Okay.
Yep.
Let me just read.
Can I also say that some of us are carrying it further? You see,
Yes.
I'm in red today,
Yes.
just showing that I'm not smiling.
in solidarity.
I actually have
I need to get an orange jacket.
An orange jacket. No, that should be a good idea. Yesterday, there was an accident in Nigeria.
Yes.
50 vehicles with hundreds of commuters were set ablaze when a petrol tanker fell, spilling its contents on the road. And commuters in those vehicles were burned to death. This is on nine people dead is what we are getting. I'll be able to confirm that shortly. On an expressway there. And again, I can only imagine what disaster management in that country must also look like. We've seen instances where, for example, and I don't know which country this was in Asia, a train derails. The transport minister quits.
Yep.
In Kenya, we have contraband sugar, contraband juice, contraband fertilizer. No one quits.
Yeah.
In Kenya, we have 7 fires in 8 years. No one quits. One almost gets a feeling that being in the public service is the safest job in this country.
Yes.
Help us understand, those of us who are not in public service, how this continues to happen. Honorable Kirwa, you seem like
it is part of the national psyche. We don't seem to care about what happens to the totality of the nation. And this is something that we need to re-engineer. I've said it before and I can say it again, that there is alienation between what we consider as government and we as members of certain communities. Say that as a Nandi or Kalenjin for that matter, I don't see myself as part of government unless one of our own is in government. And this is where we lose it. Number two is the question of our moral value. We have brought our bar so low that we don't care what happens to others as long as we are safe. It therefore means that, and third is the question of greed, national greed. Dr. Matiang'i has almost been fried because he's the one who said this sugar is laced with impurities. But because he mentioned the number of elements, we remembered mercury, and we forgot that even copper was in excess by 18.7%. And we're almost frying him, partly because he stopped some people from eating from the dirty plate. So these are some of the issues that as a nation we must ask ourselves. Can we go back to the Kenya that we had in 1963, where it never mattered where you come from? You could run in Nairobi, you could run in Nakuru, you could run in Kisumu. As long as you are a member of this party, it was more of the party than the tribe. Yep.
I think in most countries, and I would say developed countries, we've had people quit for the most mundane reasons, you know, even an email you send.
Even coming late into parliament.
Yes.
In the UK, 15 minutes late.
And you will quit. You know, I think our culture does really, we don't have that culture of quitting. And even when you are holded out, you remember 6 CSs, the last term, actually left office. But the ones who left actually were elected in other areas, most of them. Then, even after they left, the institution still has issues. And I think that culture now becomes worse, that when the CS Waiguru left NYS, we thought that's the end of it. but it still continues even with a new person. And the issue of corruption in Kenya, guys, are like, I would think people say, you are all the same minus the opportunity, which is very sad that people really condemn corruption, but when they are in that position, they will not do something different. And I think it's like Honorable Kirwa said, it's really a cancer. And I really hope we can flush it out. I am very optimistic that we can get it out, but we must make it so expensive to be able to be caught up in corruption scandals, so that every time you try to do it yourself, you think, nah, what will happen to me? What will happen to my children? What will happen to my family affairs? And that time when you make it personal and expensive, someone will think twice. Okay. And maybe we can be able to really save this country.
And actually, before I forget, last night we also saw reports, actually very late into the night, that there was a fire in Korogosho, but the Red Cross reported that the fire was contained and there were no casualties, and we hope it stays that way as well.
Let me just say one thing before you go to Honorable Rosa. The issue, you see, like Gikomba, we had a fire, I think 2015 to even the 2010 one, that even accessing Gikomba itself with a fire extinguisher was a problem, because they have been built, there are no passages to even access it. And I think it's what you are talking about, that if you try to clear it to be able to get a passage for a truck, you will have chaos. And the same people will actually be up in arms saying you're touching their businesses. Yet, for us to be effective in putting out these fires, because you can get fires and they break out, but how swift you can be able to attend them also is guaranteed by even how you pass through Gikomba. Like Honorable Rosa says, I used to sell clothes myself from Gikomba, buy and sell to my rural home, and I can tell you, it is hip hop and jump in Gikomba. It is
even on foot,
yes,
let alone
even on foot.
Let alone
so how you get a fire extinguisher to actually access the area? It took 4 hours to put out that fire, I think in 2015. Even this one maybe would have been better if even the passages were cleared.
The fire started sometime between 1 to 2:30,
and they normally come during wee hours.
Still see it, still
during wee hours. But accessing the area is terrible. But I think that, like I said before, let someone face it head on, clear the passages, because if we cannot, like Honorable Rosa says, if we cannot modernize it, let us make it safe. Whatever the political cost, there has to be a cost. There has to be an opportunity cost. Let someone just face it.
Look at what happened the other day. I think when traders or people were being cleared away from the railway line at Kibra, that was unpopular with the people. But it's their lives that was being protected. And the government, whether it was county government or national government, swung into action and did it. It's now quiet and the people are safer. So it is true, like you say, that public service now seems to be the safest place to be employed, because we lack that sense of responsibility. You know, we just lack that sense of responsibility. You get the job and you feel so safe in it because you feel nobody will get you out of that job, because public service is large. But what we must do is that deterrence. The people who sit on their jobs or who do not do what they're supposed to do, the punishment must be so great that, Rosa, next time I'm in that position, I'll feel like, I must act. It doesn't matter if it comes with fear. Let that deterrence create fear. But if that fear will save lives, that is okay. But because, like she says, look at what happened with NYS. A big scandal, people move, get elected to other positions, the next person comes in, a bigger scandal, because you will go to court, then after a few months you will be let off. So even if I was to go in there, I'd be safe to know that I can actually do whatever people do, and I'll be safe 2 months or 2 days in the cells, and I'll be out, but I'll be loaded with money. You know, the punishment must just be so great, such that anybody who's contemplating committing a similar crime or a similar action that is negative will actually feel fearful, and will be deterred from committing the same action. Otherwise, if we leave things just to be like that, it doesn't matter how much the president preaches, it doesn't matter what we say in these shows, it will still be the same.